Today we can create artificial worlds that obey the finger and the eye. Well, almost. We do need a few tools to give orders to this synthetic universe. For example, a mouse. The mouse is a sensor. It records our movements and allows us to pick up and move virtual objects. By putting on a helmet with two virtual screens, one for each eye, to see three-dimensionally, you find yourself immersed in the image. At the top of the helmet, a sensor records the position of the head and transmits it to the computer. The computer calculates in real time, that is, instantly, the background virtual images in relation to the position of the head. On the suit, other sensors pick up each movement of the body. But in a virtual world, the laws of physics are sometimes weird. You may have the sense that you are flying while remaining practically motionless. The illusion is amazing. You can see, hear, touch, and soon perhaps even smell and taste. In any event, you can already interact with others inside the same virtual environment.
Le pionnier de la réalité virtuelle, c'est Sutherland, qui, dans les années 60, a proposé le concept de casque.
Sutherland pioneered the incredible concept that underlay the development of the helmet in the 60s. It was the first time anyone had succeeded in uniting the human body with virtual images. This avenue was pursued further by researchers like Tom Furness, working under the aegis of the US Air Force. In the 70s, this took the form of installing a whole battery of simulators, or holographic visors, in head-mounted display helmets in the cockpits of planes, flying at Mach 3. The result was to enable the pilot to access a vast amount of information almost instantaneously. In the mid-80s, researchers like Jérôme Lanier, with his idea of the data helmet and data glove, made the whole concept of virtual reality much more attainable. The 90s have seen an explosion of work and the concretization, the consolidation, the democratization of the concept of virtual reality. From its beginning, it took about 30 years. It all began with flight simulators, indispensable tools for training pilots while they were still on the ground. The pilot, inserted into a realistic situation in an imitation cockpit, but with real commands, visualizes the virtual landscape around him. The simulator moves mechanically and allows the pilot to feel the movements, just as in a real aircraft. Other techniques of electronic imagery, this time installed in airplanes, were a media sensation during the Gulf War. Pioneers of virtual reality, researchers at NASA, went from the flight simulator to the personal simulator. Fitted with a helmet connected to a graphics computer, Michael McGreevy becomes an astronaut, and while he remains in his living room, can explore the reconstructed landscape of Mars, the bottom of the sea, the core of a nuclear reactor. In fact, any hostile environment can now be entered without the physical presence of humans. Also at NASA, Scott Fisher's team has developed a system called telepresence that will enable us to be virtually transported to a distant site. Well protected, the operator manipulates a robot from a distance. The robot communicates to the operator all of the information gathered on the site. some time now, virtual reality has been coming out of the laboratory. A California company sells data helmets and gloves internationally. Architects will exchange their blueprints for virtual visits with their clients. The same thing with city planning. Monika Fleischmann's team has produced a simulation of Berlin.
In ziemlich kurzer Zeit hat sich in Berlin alles verändert. Die Mauer ist weg, aber tatsächlich ist sie in den Köpfen der
The wall is gone, but it seems to be higher than ever.
vorher war. Also sie ist stärker vorhanden, weil es
In everyone's mind, things haven't really changed because it's much more difficult than we thought it would be to reunite East and West.
Was war vorher und was kann man jetzt alles entdecken? Und es ist einfach ein gutes Hilfsmittel, mit dieser virtuellen Realität zu zeigen, dass man die Mauer brechen kann.
That gave us the idea to show what it was like before and what we can discover now.
Potsdamer Bahnhof dann sich
Virtuality is the best way to destroy the wall.
dort sich umsieht.
Now, when a visitor strolls through the virtual station at Potsdam, he can finally cross it.
Gehen kann, dass die durchbricht.
Designers are also learning to use virtual reality. Thanks to the data glove and voice commands, they can immediately sculpt their new prototypes and can even test them before manufacturing or putting them into the marketplace. Car enthusiasts, in search of novelty, will be able to choose the location of the ashtray or the shape of the steering wheel in projected models. In North Carolina, chemists put virtual molecules together to create new medicines. They can visualize the atoms in 3 dimensions, but above all, they can physically experience the forces of attraction and resistance between the particles. To test the aerodynamics of a space shuttle, NASA's researchers control and observe inside a virtual wind tunnel. Elsewhere, they are creating rain and sunshine and virtual tornadoes in 3 dimensions. Like pilots in flight simulators, medical students will practice surgery on virtual bodies.
We are still using knives of some kind in our bare eyes to uncover something which is bad and then cut it out. If we could overcome to see better what is not directly in front of us and to take out what we don't have necessarily our hands on, then we could do a better job of curing the patient.
Patients undergoing cosmetic surgery will be accustomed to the scars before going under the knife. Extremely sophisticated techniques will be used to help the handicapped. The eye becomes the commanding instrument. By simply staring at a section of the screen, a paraplegic is able to write or play cards. Virtual reality is about to become a common consumer product. Helmet and glove are becoming as familiar as television sets and dishwashers. In Japan, Matsushita Electric is offering virtual kitchens in catalogs at shopping malls. Visitors are taken to the showroom where they express their preferences. Then they try the furnishings virtually. The refrigerator, the storage facilities, even the dishes. 6 days later, their dream kitchen, the real one, is built and delivered. Animation also uses virtual reality. A single puppeteer covered with sensors is all that is needed for the well-known Nintendo character, Mario.
Super Mario Brothers? Oh, you gotta be kidding me, because I'm a Mario, that's why.
The same is true of other cartoon characters and stories.
Dans le silence. Tiens, regarde, il y a même des papillons.
Kids of all ages go to arcades to engage in virtual war by means of simplified versions of military simulators.
What was that like?
Brilliant.
What did it feel like?
It feels as if you're really in the plane. Unbelievable.
You're in the plane, you're shooting them, and it's brilliant. I love it. You're addicted.
Okay. How was that?
That was absolutely brilliant. I'm not an arcade fan, but that was truly amazing.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thank you.
Welcome to the game. The previous high score was 155,000 points. Good luck.
Could you tell me the time, please?
Certainly. 3:30.
Thanks very much.
What? Oh, that's okay.
But the
Oh dear, you have lost a life. Press the button when you are ready to continue.
Going to do it.
L'œuvre est en train de changer de statut. Jusqu'alors, et depuis les temps les plus reculés,
Heretofore, a work of art was a finished work, a completed object.
vendable.
Once a piece of art was finished and the artist had put his name to it, the work of art became detached from the artist. This is no longer the case. A new kind of art is developing, which could be called intermediary art. It involves creating works of art which are practically living objects, which are perpetually evolving. There are no longer finished works of art, but art in the process of being created. The rudimentary aspect of the images in the virtual world does not bother the artists. They are few in number, but a new genre of art is in the process of being born.
I'm very much interested in the interior space that is alluded to through the computer systems. The project that was done at Optimistic dealt with an allegorical city based on an understanding of a given reality. You might call it interpretive space. So rather than having one whole city, one understands that there are 5 interpretations of one whole city, 5 into 1.
The artwork is seen as a virtual space of information, of image information, sometimes also audio information, and that the viewer is able to interactively explore this data space, travel in this data space, and in effect make a kind of personal reconstruction of the work. Bicycling there becomes an activity of reading. The city becomes a kind of three-dimensional book, and it's not a linear book. As you bicycle, you yourself make a kind of personal collage. It's as if the city is speaking to you.
pense que les techniques de l'imagerie virtuelle ne sont pas quelque chose de passager. Il s'agit d'une véritable écriture, une manière de représenter et d'agir sur le monde.
Virtual reality is the first media that addresses the human body in the natural way that the human body wants to be addressed. The way that we human beings perceive the world around us is absolutely not a passive method. Rather, we are active explorers of our environment.
I fear that the main impact on our sense of the body is that it's an extension of the trend that's been happening for decades in which we are becoming disembodied. We plug our minds into electronic media, we leave our bodies behind. Well, now we're bringing artificial bodies into the virtual world, and our physical bodies are being left behind.
The data suit is essentially a full-body version of the data glove. It's a suit that you put on that tells the computer exactly how you're moving your whole body. That's it. It's very simple. In virtual reality, it has a spectacular effect because you can hook up all of those measurements of your physical body to a new virtual body. So inside the virtual world, you can turn into a lobster or a tarantula or a gazelle or whatever, and learn to control this new body, which is a very interesting experience, and especially interesting if you're interacting with other people in the same space.
On peut imaginer, au contraire, des logiciels de torture. J'espère que ça n'existe pas encore, mais enfin, il y a un SAD électronique virtuel à inventer.
Now we have a tool that allows us to explore our minds and our essence. We have a tool to be able to explore concepts and data. Once we start using this tool, we will find that we can put ourselves into imaginary worlds. We can put ourselves into worlds that reflect our thoughts and our desires and our intentions. And it's these experiences that will allow our concept of our mind and our concept of our spiritual body to grow to the same extent as we have been able to grow our concept of our physical body over the last several thousand years within our current civilization.
Now, in a virtual world, you suddenly have this synthetic shared imagination, and I think a spark goes off in people going way, way back to their earliest experiences as children, saying, maybe here is a way to take back this dream of sharing imagination, to create this fluid world where imagination is real and where it is possible to share these things with other people. And I think that's really the dream that drives virtual reality.
À partir de la cuisine, on peut se dire, mais pourquoi est-ce que Matsushita ne pense pas à faire une agence matrimoniale, virtuelle, universelle? C'est-à-dire qu'on puisse modeler le conjoint selon les souhaits que l'on peut avoir. Et après, on pêcherait en Australie ou ailleurs, il n'y a pas besoin d'être proche, et on ferait venir éventuellement l'original avec la possibilité de le laisser en route si on a changé de désir. Mais davantage, on peut se demander, est-ce que c'est pas comme ça qu'on va faire les enfants?
The way I imagine it in the future is, let's say you come home to your apartment and everything is as normal, but you put on a special pair of glasses and all of a sudden there's new virtual furniture added to your apartment that wasn't there before. And one of these pieces of virtual furniture, simulated furniture, is a large set of shelves with fish bowls lined up on it. Each of these fish bowls represents a different collection of people who are hooked up to the virtual reality network who are having a certain experience. So inside one of the fish bowls there might be a real estate office where a real estate developer is taking people through buildings that are available. Another fish bowl might have a game of three-dimensional sports, maybe a new type of football that takes place on a three-dimensional field in space instead of on a flat field. And then perhaps another one will be an educational lesson where people can experience being different dinosaurs and learn about dinosaurs by becoming them. At any rate, what you do is you simply put your hand into one of these fish bowls, and suddenly you see the bowl becoming very large until it swallows you, and then you find yourself in there and you become one of those people in this shared reality conversation. So to me, this is the future direction. This is where the technology is going.
Goldfisch, Löwe, Weh, Kalb, Wurm, Mops, Ops, Elch, Floh, Ops,
Today I can, thanks to the computer, and very widely with a supercomputer, proceed with simulations that not only imitate the real, but can simulate this reality to an extraordinary extent. The fascinating question is how children will be conceived. The simulation will win out over reality itself. For example, if we were to create electronic politicians, which the Japanese have promised to do, we would have no need of stand-ins or doubles as Stalin did. The virtual politician would always radiate that smile which is the hallmark of the politician. For a politician must always, whether he has indigestion or not, he must always smile. So we would have an electronic president, always smiling.
When I'm elected, synthetic parts will go to synthetic actors.
I think virtual reality has a chance of shaping a certain amount of our cultural identity in the future, in the same way that television and movies have had an incredible shaping effect on our consciousness in this century.
We've already seen that the television is probably the most important propaganda technology in the world. Here we are creating a technology which will have even greater capabilities for extending human senses, which will be a great boon for scientists and doctors, but it will also be a powerful machine for influencing people's beliefs and perceptions. It may be the ultimate brainwashing device.
Le corps n'est plus ce que nous croyons.
The body is no longer what we thought it was. In the same way that our perception of things, our conception of the world is no longer what it was, we must rapidly find new axes, new thought structures, new forms of morality to manage the complexity, this possible confusion that the virtual techniques are beginning to implant as seeds for the moment, but which will become exponentially explosive in the years to come.